Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey here once again with another video on The Flash Season 8. So over the course of The Flash's years on TV, we have seen many villains come as well as go, as you would expect, whether they've been big bads for an entire season, like a Savitar or a DeVoe, or just a villain of the week type character like some of the rogues that we've seen. But we've also seen a bunch of characters return for an appearance or appearances, whether that be in flashbacks, time travel, alternate Earths, or just in, the present day. Now, usually the villains that do show up again are those villains that originally showed up as a villain of the week or a smaller part of the show, but in some cases, we have seen big bads come back for appearances. Now, one of these was, of course, Hunter Zolomon, aka Zoom, who returned to The Flash during Season 5 when we had the 100th episode of The Flash, which had Barry and his daughter Nora traveling back through significant periods of the show to retrieve some items to build another item to take down Cicada, which worked in the end for like 5 seconds before failing. So it was a bit of a waste of time in retrospect, although it was an entertaining episode to watch while they were in the process of retrieving those items. But yeah, we saw Zoom return in newly filmed scenes for that episode when Barry and Nora traveled back to the events of Season 2, and at the time, this was awesome as we didn't know if we would ever see Zoom again after Season 2, and Crisis hadn't happened by this point, so we didn't know what the post-Crisis timeline would look like, and that will feature soon in this video. But Teddy Sears, who is the actor who played Hunter Zolomon, aka Zoom, in The Flash, actually came back to film scenes for that 100th episode, sorry. No 150th, but 100th episode in Season 5. It wasn't just a stunt double in the Zoom suit, and he did decide to post something interesting on Instagram recently. So as you can see, we have this photo with him with the Zoom cowl on. It says September 2018, cross-eyed and back in the chair for the 100th episode. Anyone else want to see Zoom one last time in Season 8? Would be great fun. Now just quickly, I saw people saying, oh my god, it said one last time in Season 8. Season 8's the last season. Teddy Sears wouldn't know if it's the last season, just like, or at least he wouldn't be the one to reveal it, you know what I mean? So don't look into that. I saw some people sort of, going down paths that weren't even there, so ignore that. Now, obviously, as Teddy Sears does say in the Instagram post, this is a photo that was taken, when he returned to film his stuff for the 100th episode back in Season 5, which, as he said, was in 2018. But of course, he is putting the question out there about whether anyone would want to see Zoom show up again in Season 8. And of course, this is something that we went over previously in another video, I think it was either earlier this year or late last year, but Eric Wallace, who is the showrunner for The Flash, said that Zoom was one of his favorite characters from the show, and it's on his to-do list in regards to bringing him back to the show in some way, whatever that may be. But in regards to a Zoom return, that has always been the big question. How do you bring him back? Now, of course, this doesn't mean Zoom is 100% coming back, but I think it opens up the door for an interesting conversation. So feel free to let me know, your thoughts in the comment section down below on what I talk about, as well as your own additions. I'm always curious to read them. But of course, as well, if you enjoy this and you want Zoom back, want to drop a like on the video to show support and needs. Does that make sense? I think. So of course, back in Season 2 in the finale, we saw Barry lure, I guess you could say, in the Time Wraiths, who took Zoom away and transformed him into the Black Flash, who we of course then saw show up a handful of times after that on both The Flash as well as Legends of Tomorrow. But the big thing about those events is that they took place in the pre-crisis timeline of the Arrowverse, and we are currently in the post-crisis, where Earth Prime to Team Flash at the very least is seen as like the only Earth, or at least contact with the other Earths hasn't been made at this point in time. And Zoom originally was from Earth 2 in the pre-crisis timeline, so just due to that change, things should be a bit different. So what we know about Hunter Zolomon, aka Zoom, in the post-crisis timeline comes from soon after the Crisis crossover ended and the rebirth of the new multiverse happened and the formation of Earth Prime, and this is when we see a host of changes written down on a whiteboard in Star Labs that were noticed from the group that do remember both the pre- and post-crisis timelines. So what was said was that Zoom, along with his army of metahumans, which happened in I think the second last episode of Season 2, they didn't actually come from Earth 2, they just came through a mysterious breach. And though you could argue, oh well, that could mean he was from a different Earth, That is true, but based off this, Barry never went to Zoom's Earth like we saw in season 2 or anything like that. That whole Welcome to Earth 2 and Escape from Earth 2, that episode never happened. Barry was never stuck in a cell and saw the man in the Iron Mask. We just should assume that, or at least it never took place on Earth 2. So things played out quite differently just based off that one little change there. But one of the bigger things is that it was never stated that Zoom was taken and then turned into Black Flash. They don't actually say what happened to Zoom exactly overall, but we can just assume that he was defeated. But if that was the case, where has he been all this time? Like, do you just evaporate? Like, where did he go? And that question of where has he been all this time is a pretty tricky one to just center in on, because it is hard to come up with a definitive place or overly interesting area in which an evil speedster would have gone off to and either decided not to show up again and make himself a nuisance for our mate Barry Allen, or just be a nuisance for other people, causing the Flash to go and deal with him, whether it's in Keystone City or in Jamaica, wherever it might be. The easy option is just to say that he is in Iron Heights. If you just want a simple, easy, bare bones answer to this, it's that he's in Iron Heights, which could work. I think it's actually the one that is the easiest to answer, and I think it's the one that's the most easy overall. Like, it's easy to answer, as well as I think it's easy for the show to implement. So overall, I think it works, and it would make sense as to why there would be no need to mention him as well. Like, why would they? Why would they have needed to mention Zoom in previous, like last season or this season after, Crisis has happened or anything like that? Because he's just locked in Iron Heights. There's nothing overly interesting. It's not like, oh, I wonder when Zoom's going to come back. He's in Iron Heights. There's no need to worry. I mean, there's a bunch of other Flash villains in Iron Heights as well. And we can assume that he would be in like a speed dampening cell within Iron Heights, so there's no real need to worry. But if he wasn't in Iron Heights, they could make it that he had his speed taken from him, or it was damaged and lost due to overusing velocity or something like that, or mixed in with like the Flash defeating him at the end of season 2. But then I guess you could argue, how would he get his speed back? Well, the answers to that I think could maybe revolve around something that happened to another character, and that's Jay Garrick. We saw that Jay Garrick didn't have his speed. He lost his speed, but he got his speed back after the Speed Force was fixed and rejuvenated, so they could do the same for Zoom if they wanted to as well. It's very important to remember he's like connected to the Speed Force as well. It's not something like weird, like he just got it from velocity. Like, he actually got speed from a particle accelerator incident that happened on Earth 2. Who knows what it means where he got it post-Crisis, but we're just we're basing it off what we saw. But in regards to a story, whether that be for half a season or a few episodes, I think the easiest way to reintroduce Zoom would be to make it that he was locked up in Iron Heights for all those years. I think it eliminates any potential plot holes outside of maybe the thing from season 7, might I say, that allowed both Chillblaine and Frost to escape. But you could easily say that Zoom's area and where he's locked up has like a backup generator and something like that, just in case of power outages or weird things. So it wouldn't matter if a storm or whatever it was took out power and allowed a breakout. He'd be still locked up and, dampened by whatever the technology is. But they would have to figure out a way in which to have him escape Iron Heights to then be a threat for Team Flash again. An easy way, which we've seen on other shows and movies, like heaps of them, with villains that they could do, and it would work for the most part, is that he's being just simply transported to another area, something goes wrong, he gets out, time to be a menace, I've got speed again, pretty easy. Now, one interesting thing which they could do with Zoom, and just say this is what he was like the entire time, and this is what he was like in the post-Crisis timeline, and it would make him different from what we saw in season 2, is they could retcon Zoom a bit and make it that post-Crisis, his character is a bit more like his comic counterpart. So in the comics, Zoom, like for the most part, and recently they've sort of changed it, but for 95% of his lifespan in the comics, Hunter Zolomon actually hasn't had super speed. He's not Speed Force like we have with it doesn't have the speed the same way as like Barry and Reverse Flash or Jay Garrick and stuff have speed. He's not moving incredibly fast. What he does is time manipulate. He manipulates time around him to make it move extremely slow, and then he's just in his own world, if that makes sense. So he's sort of like an extremely overpowered version of the Turtle that we've seen. And they could even make the story in the season, if they wanted to, that Hunter Zolomon wants proper access to the Speed Force rather than just being able to manipulate time. However, and this is something that some of you guys might be already thinking to yourselves, that would be similar to what we just had at the end of season 7 with Godspeed. Not the exact same, but it's pretty much the same. So maybe giving him some other sort of plan and motivation might be for the best. he might just want straight up revenge against Barry. That might be the best way. Hey, you locked me up for all these years. Maybe he went even more insane than he was. I mean, I'd be going after that person. I think if I was Zoom, I think I'd be going after Barry, but who knows what he would do. But yeah, there are a couple of different like paths and routes and pathways or roads, what do you want to call it, that they could go down with this Zoom storyline if he was to return. But man, I mean, the actor wants to come back. The showrunner's already said that he'd love to use the character again. I think everyone as viewers would love to see Zoom come back in some way, shape, or form, whether it's for an extended period of time or even just a few episodes. Why not do it? I think it'd be cool, and I'm pretty sure most of you guys would agree. But thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show your support. Let me know in the comments section down below your various opinions on this. Would you want Zoom to come back? In what way? Are you more in line with what I've presented in this video, or do you have something else? If so, let me know. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. And yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.